Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Ty from the Unemployed Architects. Got a lot to talk about this week. I've been slacking on the podcast stuff. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of weird stuff going on in the day-to-day life, so it's been definitely taken away and doing a number on me, but I'm pretty used to that, I think, and I think that that's all going to change here soon, so that'll be nice. But until then, I'm going to have to hopefully get these done a little sooner, but then it'll be hopefully weekly after that. That's what I'm hoping for, but it's just tough to say. You know, stuff gets in the way. Life gets in the way. But, so, 3 shows to talk about. It's a pretty eventful few weeks, really. I was gonna do a little COVID update, but I've been having nosebleeds pretty regularly, which seems strange, and I haven't really heard that as a symptom from people. I had to take cough medicine for probably 3 weeks after I was okay to come back to work, so that was kind of weird. And I got a sweet rash on my back, which has all but gone away at this time, but for a while there it was pretty bad, and my fatigue is getting better. Yeah, so that's kind of just the general COVID, and my overall outlook is getting a little bit better. If you would talk to me last week, probably would have had a different attitude, but anyway, maybe 2 weeks ago too, but now things are turning around a little bit. I got more of an idea for some things I'm gonna try, so that's gonna be nice. Update on the pandemic relief. My brother all but has the artwork done. He has to do one font change, and so that's looking really good. I think he did a really good job on it, and I'm pretty excited for everyone to see that. And then I'm gonna have the mixed and mastered audio hopefully after Monday, so that's gonna be really cool as well. And going to get it mixed and mastered with Eric. Not much to mix since they're all one-track recordings and they're all live, so it's not really a lot you can do. You kind of just EQ it maybe a little better than I had it, and then of course with the mastering make it all louder. So nothing fancy, that's for sure. But then from there I take those tracks, I'll have to get them mastered for vinyl, and then I'll start, I could probably release it digitally maybe a little bit before I have the vinyl, but I have money in the bank for that, and then I'll sell those to anybody who's interested. So the shows this last few weeks started with Friday, would have been 2 weeks ago from this Friday, would have been my first show back. I played at the Neon Bison in Peoria, Illinois, and I was coughing a lot, so I was pretty nervous about it. It turned out to be one of my best vocal performances I've done in a really long time. Same for Saturday. I just hit some sort of stride where I was just really relaxed. Now, that's not to say there wasn't some other weird stuff going on, but the bar asked me back immediately after the show. And it wasn't busy. They apologized a bunch of times for it not being busy, but, there were people there, 10 maybe, and there was a wedding party that came in at the end of the night that ended up, it was probably 20 extra people on top of the 10 or 20 that were already there, so, and it was a really good tip night, and the bar seemed like they enjoyed it. They were very specific that they wanted a solo show after that, so I will be doing that in September. And then Saturday night, I played at the Cadillac Jacks, which started a little weird. I mean, I think it sounded good. I felt good. It took me maybe an hour and a half to kind of catch my stride. But once I did, and it wasn't like it was bad before then. It was just I felt like I had to focus a little extra hard to make it okay. But then, it started kind of playing up, and I started feeling really good, and I had worked all day that day, so that was kind of a, rough one, but it was there in town, and there was a little confusion because, we were supposed to do 3-piece, and as I'd mentioned when I did the last podcast, that Lo was in the hospital that week, so she didn't make it to the show, so it was just Dave and I, and I don't know. I should have maybe mentioned it to the bar, I guess, in retrospect, but I'd played there one time before, and we didn't really talk about the number of pieces, and it was just Dave and I, and nobody really said anything, so I just thought it was fine, I guess, to just do 2-piece. But, so I kind of felt, that somebody hit me up, the person who booked it hit me up, and said, I thought there was going to be 3 of you, and that kind of made me feel weird, but I played up, and I felt like, we did the job. And that was kind of the mentality for the whole weekend, was just like get through it, because I didn't know how it was going to go with all the COVID stuff. So overall, I think it went well. And then at the end, I had a weird thing happened that a guy from, a couple people came. Stumpy Joe, who plays this 1-string kind of bass-like instrument that he built. And I played with him before, kind of accidentally, at a festival we did last year. And, so yeah, that was cool. Got to play with the bass player. And then he had, a guy he normally plays with. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. It was something in this 7-string blues band. And they had played at Distill earlier. And then they showed up kind of late to our show. And then we all ended up all kind of jamming together. And I let the lead singer, like at the end of our set, which was like 11, I let him play a few songs, and he was great. I'm gonna look up that dude's name, because I recommend definitely checking him out. He does like a one-man band thing, kind of similar to I do, but definitely more on like the blues side of things. Blues kind of folk, kind of interesting way of playing guitar, and he was just super nice all night. And I let him play like maybe 4 songs. Sorry, I'm looking it up really quick. But he was really good. And then I played a little bit more with Stumpy after that. Devin Williams in the 7-string blues band. So, real original sound and really cool. So I mean, if you haven't checked them out, maybe check them out. You kind of never know what you're gonna expect. You never know what to expect when you just let some rando kind of play on stage, because it could go badly too. But he definitely did the job, that was for sure. And he was a little uncomfortable with my foot drum setup, but he made it work, and it sounded fine. So, yeah, both those shows ended up really well. I ended up playing like a little bit extra time on, I think, both of them. And, yeah, so that went well. It was a hard week of work, and then the next weekend I only had Saturday at the Poor Brothers in Peoria. And supposed to be 2-piece, but Lo still wasn't really feeling quite right, and Dave as well. So I ended up, and the day of had to be like, just gonna be me tonight. You can pay me less, I definitely understand. And so it was all kind of on me, and I got there a little later than I wanted, and I couldn't find the right cables when I was setting stuff up. But ultimately, it was like one of the better shows I've done in a while. I used the JBLs, and I used 2 of them, so I put them on each side, and then I didn't even end up and use a monitor. Just turned the vocals loud enough that I could hear them when I tilted my head, and it was outside. It was a nice night, and yeah, it actually ended up going really well. I did 4 hours, which is a long time to do by yourself solo at the one-man band thing. But, I was excited for the challenge, honestly. I wanted to see if I could do it. And then, like, probably 15 minutes before I ended, a whole crew of people showed up, and they were, like, all into dancing, and So the show was, coming to an end. It was 7:11. 7 to 11 was probably 10:45, 10:50. And then, it got to be a little bit after 11. And I was like, well, it's my time. And they seemed a little bummed about it. And I always see that as a good opportunity to point out that I have a tip jar. And then if I get some tips in there, I'll definitely keep playing. I ended up playing for almost 5 hours by myself. And it went well. There were some moments that, were a struggle. I didn't get as much practice in last week as I should have. I'll say that, too. But, I was riding the momentum from the 2 shows the week before, and stuff just kept coming up, and I just didn't get around to it as much as I wanted. I think I only practiced 2 times during the week, which is a pretty slow week for me on the practice front. And they weren't very long, but at least I did something, I guess. But, so, there were moments where I was like, what? Like, I kind of fumbled some words. I was kind of embarrassed about that, but I don't think anybody really noticed. I remember there was a fellow there who was taking pictures and super complimentary, and he recognized one of the songs I did, and I just, butchered the lyrics pretty terribly, and I mentioned it, and he didn't really seem to notice, so I got the meat and potatoes of it right, I guess, but it was, and then by the end, I was just besides, I was sitting for all these shows because I didn't know if I could stand and do the foot drums or if I'd be too worn out. And by the end, I definitely was feeling it in my back and in my butt. But, 5 hours of sitting on a weird cushion and my foot drum kept acting kind of weird towards the end of the set. But by the time I was doing the extra hour, it was kind of worked itself out. I don't really know what was going on with it necessarily, and that kind of, always takes away on the focus, or the being in the moment, because you're like, why isn't my foot drum? I think it was during maybe a medley of tunes, and you could stop, but then it'd be it would work for a few seconds and then not work, and then it would work, and then I just would keep going, forget it. When you're singing and playing, trying to remember the words and the melodies and all that, you kind of have really, really short-term memory outside of that. So there's often times where it's oh, I need to take some of the high end out of this guitar. Oh, I need to turn that boost down, or oh, I need to, you have these passing thoughts while you're singing and playing, and then, once the song's over, it's all of it's forgotten. But I ended up making 150 extra bucks in tip, which kind of made up for getting paid less from the bar. And it was just a good show. I don't know how else to say it. I really needed it. It would have been a long week, and the show delivered, the people delivered, and it was just a blast. I had a good time, and there was just moments where I was I wonder how good I would be doing if I didn't have to work all day today. You kind of, and I'm hard to get off a stage, it's fucking 4 hours. 4 hours of playing, and I'm oh, let's just do an extra hour. I didn't want to be done. It was the only show that weekend, so I think that probably had something to do with it, but I don't know. It was fun. It was a blast, and the other 2 shows were, a lot of fun too, so had some weird stuff happen, but I don't really want to get all into that quite right now. I'm going to tell a story that kind of is paralleled to what went on these last few weeks with band stuff. So when we first started playing in Bloomington, we had a band manager that kind of got involved with us, and we'll call him Steve. And so Steve was a really nice guy, super nice to us, liked what we were doing, saw some potential, just a good guy, I think, ultimately. But he kind of gave us a bad reputation right out of the gates in Bloomington. He would go around and talk to bars and try to book us, and would make us seem like we were better than we were. Try to be hey, these guys are from California or LA or something, and they're some big band. You should be so appreciative to have them play in your bar, and that didn't really, I think in general, just kind of the vibe the guy was putting off about us was not good. So he didn't have a great reputation right away. And he kind of had like just a little offness when he was pitching us to some places and rubbed people the wrong way. And it made it tough to kind of start booking again. And, it was a bummer. It was a bummer. And it probably did more damage than I even know. I remember talking to people years later and them asking, like, didn't you used to get booked by this Steve guy? And I would have to be like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Like, not ideal. And, anyway, so, it gets to be hard to book sometimes when stuff like that happens. And I will say a similar thing happened this last few weeks. And I'm friends with, just like I was then. I was friends with the guy that was booking us, the Steve fella. And it was hard to kind of end that. I think that just kind of petered out ultimately due to just it petering out. I don't think it, but currently I'm navigating a situation where, I'm really good friends with the guy, and I would like to stay good friends and be in connection, and which is ultimately why it's hard for me to work with other people sometimes, because you have to trust them with with how people perceive you, which I know I don't put off the best, or give off the best perception maybe, or people don't perceive me the right way sometimes, but I don't think they perceive me maybe negatively. They just don't perceive me at all. I'm forgettable maybe. Maybe that's my downfall. But leaving a bad taste in the mouth of people that also have the band name, the Unemployed Architects, is not a good thing. That you really don't want to have them remember you negatively. So it's like, what? And we've had that name for so long, and it's barely that band anymore, I've been releasing stuff, and part of the reason is, it's all together, it's all, and a lot of the same musicians played on a lot of these songs that have played on, Designed to Shine, but it's changing, it's ever changing, and I don't really know how it's going to end up, the situation that I'm in right now, or, I think I want to do one more the Unemployed Architects album, and then just not make one until it's asked for, and have it be the right people. It'd be great if it was Big D, myself, Blair, Kev, Dave, Lowe. But I mean, more than half of those people don't even play with me anymore. So it's not really the same thing, which is sad. I'm sad to see it go. But, it's probably time. So, this Pandemic Relief EP, the live one that I'm about to release, is going to be called The Unemployed Architects Present TyJon Charlie. That's what I'm going by for my solo stuff. And my name's TyJon, so TyJon. There's already a really popular guy that I'm a big fan of named Tyler Childers, as well as a bunch of other Tylers out there, so trying to change it a little bit, make it something a little bit more unique, I guess. The Charlie is just, I'm Charlie Brown, pretty much. My overall disposition, every time I watch that, I think, I kind of have a similar headspace. So, and those two words together aren't something that's taken. It's easy. It'd be easy to find if I type that into Google, if I release a bunch of stuff under that name. And, I'd like to start a fresh new band at some point. Be nice to kind of let some of the stuff go. Not that I would never play with the main musicians anymore that, I played with for all these years, but, Blair just had a baby, like, a couple weeks ago. maybe it was last week, and Kev just hasn't played with me forever. I mean, he's been on all the recordings, and Big D, it's been even longer. So, again, I don't think it's something we would never want to play in that form again. I would love to play in that form again, but it just hasn't been happening. So it's kind of seems weird to call it the same thing. But anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on in a way, I guess. I was supposed to play tonight at 5 Points in Washington, and the weather dropped down to the 50s, and it's been rainy all day, so they canceled. And I'm supposed to play at the Benjamin Bash on Sunday here in town, and I think that's at Little Beaver Brewing Company. And that's Sunday from like 3 to 5, so probably get there around 1 to set up, but it's weird only having the one show, and it's a long day, holiday weekend, but studio Monday, so I'll have all the fresh audio tracks, which will be nice. Need to get that all set up for Monday, as far as like on a hard drive or something. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to, the show Sunday and some shows next weekend. I feel like I'm at Clark Bar and where else? Clark Bar and let me pull it up. Four-door brewing indicator. So door 4 brewing indicator. So that'll be a fun weekend. But anyway, so that's what's been going on. Things are looking up, and that's a good thing. But as always, anybody who takes the time to listen, I appreciate you, and I will talk to you next time. Have a nice day and a nice week. I'll see you soon.